There are so many ways to go about living this life we have. If our fate and future aren't decided for us, should we take them into our own hands and seize the day? Yes, you say. But isn't relying on knowledge and experiences of those who came before us and have our best interests at their heart a better strategy? They'll provide resources, advice, and directions. Our chances of failure are now at a minimum, right? Nope. We're stepping on a path of never living in the first place. There are many ideas on the meaning of the Green Knight, and people are speculating on it to this day. I'm here to offer my perspective on this subject and just tell you that if you've missed this gem, you're in luck, because this one is just wonderful. Well, if you're okay with artsy movies that require thinking and interpreting. The Green Knight is a movie by David Lowery, based on a 14th century Arthurian legend, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, by an unknown author. It's not the first film adaptation, not even the second, but it might just be the ultimate. It all starts with the literary trope of a medieval era, a beheading game. A mysterious knight on a green horse barges in to challenge the knights of the Round Table to cleave his head off. He also gives a fair warning: he will return the blow in 1 year. It sounds like a rigged game right from the start, so everyone hesitates to respond. But there's an ambitious young man in the midst of the guests. He longs to make a name for himself, so he sees this as an opportunity. Would greatness at hand's reach tempt you? I'm honest and shallow enough to admit that I'd chop that weird-looking head clean off. Being offered the Excalibur to do it would be all the incentive I'd need. If you've seen any of David Lowery's movies before, you'd come to expect thoughtful direction, creative cinematography, and an abundance of metaphors. The most subtly striking thing about The Green Knight for me is the atmosphere, the feel of a fairy tale, an eerie and somehow soothing sense of dreaming. The locations seem unreal, and yet they're actual real-life places you can visit. The characters are more symbolic concepts than women and men. Every encounter a parable, written by an ancient man with deep understanding of humanity's most profound questions, still unanswered centuries later. We just got better at distractions. The film starts in the morning mist, turning into foggy days and evenings, and culminates in sunshine of the golden hour. This supports the narration in the most elegant of ways. It feels like every step towards the resolution of the story is a step through the fog and uncertainty into clarity. Things seem cryptic, unstable, and impossible not only to comprehend but to even separate a single word, until everything is finally seen. This is visual language perfection. The appearance of Green Knight is cleverly presented. It's immediately apparent that he's not human. The original text says he wore no armor. Lowery creatively worked around this, not to clad him in a full-plate mail with a helmet, but at the same time give him the look of a warrior, mystical appearance of spirit or a creature of a legend. Ralph Ineson's portrayal of the knight is absolutely top-notch. You couldn't find a better fitting voice. If thousand-year-old trees could talk, they'd sound like Ralph. But what really stands out is that constant sense of being half awake, the constant doubt of whether it's all a dream or reality. It's emphasized by the scenes that feel extremely vivid and leave no room for doubt, and within a moment you're starting to doze off again. It's like some shifty-eyed suspicious character spiked your drink without anyone noticing. Or maybe it's just witchcraft. We're being prepped for the finale by ways of showing us different outcomes of different situations throughout the film. This approach worked really well for me. Following the source material very loosely, Lowery expands and reinterprets it by adding his personal, almost intimate touch. Gawain is far from being a paragon of virtue here. I'd speculate that the original author would gladly put in those details if only they weren't punishable by death at the time. Gawain is experiencing something that is all familiar to all of us, being insecure. He's not a knight yet, he's author's nephew, living in his shadow, spending time in brothels and not questing and battling. His mother, Morgan Le Fay, performed a magical ritual to summon the Green Knight, ostensibly to give her son a chance to rise. But whether this is love or manipulation is deliberately left up for debate. The original is a parable of the consequences of lying or withholding information, if you will. And as a result, every knight took it as a lesson and wore the same girdle as a reminder. But here, each encounter on Gawain's journey feels more like a cross between a dream sequence, a test, or a teaching moment. The one no amount of pep talk from your uncle can prepare you for. A scavenging bandit whose prying questions are implying that our knight reeks of inexperience. A ghost searching for her head, giants passing in the distance, a fox that may or may not be his subconscious or just his mother's familiar. All of them were intended to hold a mirror to the protagonist and, of course, the viewer. Shedding all possessions and contact by the end, the ultimate question is posed and bluntly answered. I'd wager that what makes this movie stand on common ground with those ancient texts that became timeless is that they never try to preach anything to you. You're presented with a sequence of events occurring to the characters and never hear the medium moralize. In McCabe and Mrs. Miller, its stark realism and brutal honesty mesmerized its audiences. Rightly so. It became a classic because it pulled no punches, it never tried to romanticize in any way. You might ask why compare such blunt realism to a fairy tale with incredibly polished visuals? Well, apart from being noteworthy creative works, I believe there's another connection. Bravery. Bravery to admit fear, admit helplessness, and the inevitability of our existence, and making the most difficult of choices, being fully aware of consequences. The line Arthur murmurs to Gawain, "'Tis but a game," resonates throughout the whole film. And yet this is no game, it's his very fate and life that are on the line. As any young knight would, he sets his aims high. And the stakes are even higher. The best thing I like about the beheading game is that you need to honorably come to receive the blow by yourself. No one is chasing you demanding you pay your dues. This game is exclusive to men of honor. Beautiful, isn't it? The Green Knight is expecting you to uphold the unspoken code and abide by the game's rules. This denial of one's survival instinct is a small internal triumph of mind over flesh. The Christmas feast resumes with a flare. However, it's more a celebration of relief rather than Gawain's successful strike or the new year. Gawain's mother performed the rite for him to attain greatness and set the plot to put him on the throne in motion. The girdle meant to protect him from harm is the leash, the shackles of following a path tread by someone else. What good would be a life lived by someone else's design? Wouldn't you rather live out your own experiences and not wonder by the end, is this all it is? But rather enjoy and suffer the consequences of your own choices. This is a question I faced myself, as most of us did, I'm sure. I dropped the girdle just like Gawain did. I have no regrets. Better to own your mistakes than someone else's. So enjoy your year of praise and acclaim. Your green chapel awaits. The color green is symbolic of death and decay here, as explained so thoroughly by the lady of the castle. Almost every film by Lowery has a scene of someone, for the lack of a better phrase, spelling out the crux of the movie to the viewer. I'm sorry, but if I was asked to point out something I dislike about The Green Knight, it would be this. Just like the ghost story, over-explaining cheapens it. Rein yourself in a little, drop a hint mid-dialogue, trust your audience a little more. If they're clever enough to keep watching a weird movie about a guy with a bedsheet over his head, they're attentive enough to piece together the message. The green of the earth consuming everything is beautiful, poetic, and frankly reassuring. The words of Marcus Aurelius about accepting death with gratitude and the realization that every living being is a small part of the universe, making its small contribution to the order of things, stuck with me forever. It's not grim, it's just the way it is. Let the mind be victorious over matter once again. The Green Knight has very little to do with what we traditionally call fantasy. Wizards and dragons are nowhere to be found. It puts interiority in focus, myths and their meaning, fear. What I love most about it is how open for interpretation it is. If you don't like this ambiguity, this one might not be for you. But remember, it stood the test of centuries for a reason. You're not smug enough to think you're smarter than entire generations of your kind, are you? Alright then, give it a chance maybe. And then try to keep an open mind and trust your gut. Let go a little. Or if by any chance you've just grown tired of over-explained worlds and ideas feeling stale, this film offers a strong mixture of concepts, mystery, sincerity, and depth. The most valuable in my eyes is this sincerity that acknowledges our flawed nature, our inevitable mortality, and the ever-present question of if there's more to this existence than that we seem to perceive. Even better is to heed Arthur's advice and keep in mind that all of this is but a game we play, for a moment in time. And just like any other game, the process is the only thing that matters. And besides, is there anything more to ask for than Ralph Innocent in a tree costume? Exactly. To those few of you who watched to this part, sincerely, thank you. Drop me a comment on what you think of the movie if you've seen it already. And if you didn't, are you planning on watching it now? I know artsy movies are a very niche subject, and these videos will barely get any views. I still believe they deserve to be made. To quote Herbert Kurtzmer, I'd like to abide by wisdom and acquired magnificence by not doing any one thing for too long. As always, thank you very much for watching. To those few who actually watched it till the end, there's no words to express my appreciation for you. Sincerely, thank you.